So we've discussed a little bit about ice asteroid mining when we discussed the Canterbury and the events leading up to the main conflict within the Expanse, but I figured today we could take a closer look at rock hoppers, or asteroid mining, within the Expanse. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So within the Expanse, asteroid mining takes a few different forms. First off, there's the massive scale sort of corporate asteroid mining, which we never see on screen and we really don't hear much about, but I'm assuming it functioned a lot like what we saw with the Canterbury and the ice asteroids. They would have a large ship with a large cargo hold where they could drag asteroids into the cargo hold and then strip them in there before dumping them somewhere, likely in a ring, for example, the rings of Saturn. However, the one that's more interesting is what many of us know as rockhopping or prospecting. And it's exactly like the name sounds, like an old 1800s prospector looking for gold. These small ships, usually crewed by a handful of people, no more than 3 or 4, would go out in search of asteroids that may have some significant wealth on them, digging around through small clusters of asteroids or rummaging through the asteroid belt in hopes of finding riches in one of the rocks. When they found one that they feel is worth selling, they would stretch a net around the asteroid before detonating a series of explosives within it. This causes it to fragment within the net and make it easier to be towed into a port, where the net could be emptied and its contents could be sold. We actually see this very specifically done within the first season of The Expanse. However, this load never makes it to port because it's used as a weapon. Rockhopping is generally considered to be a rather dangerous profession within The Expanse, mostly due to the close proximity to asteroids, which always pose a threat to ships, something that's made special note during these early days, which is very, very clearly foreshadowing to the kind of tactics that Marco will use during his war against Earth and Mars. But on top of that, you're working with mining explosives, which also pose a big threat to the crew and the teams working on the asteroid. Combine that with the fact that the entire thing uses some awkward orbital mechanics to try to sort of finagle the asteroid into wherever you're trying to get it, and you end up with a fairly dangerous profession, but one that's rather cheap to enter. All you need is a small prospecting ship, which I know that's a spaceship, but still, it doesn't have to be relatively large. It can be a smaller vessel, as we see on screen, and a small crew with an appropriately sized net and some explosives. I also think it's worth pointing out that that is coincidentally also a great setup for if you wanted to start a homegrown rebellion against anything, because you have small, nimble spacecraft and explosives. The nets, you could take them or leave them. So what exactly are they getting from these asteroids? Well, it comes down to 3 different classes of asteroids with different resources within them. First up, there's C-type asteroids, which are rich in water ice as well as organic carbons. These materials can be used to make fairly effective fertilizers for growing crops in zero-gravity and in microgravity environments, which are fairly common across the belt. Next is the M-type asteroids. These are mostly heavy metals. These are irons and other sort of raw building material, but it's usually mixed in with other fairly valuable metals like gold and platinum. And between both of them, you have the S-type asteroids, which are kind of a mixture of both, where you have a combination of water ice and some loose rocks, as well as things like iron, gold, platinum, rhodium, stuff like that. So that's what they're hoping to get out of these asteroids, but where do you take them once you've got them broken up in your net? Well, most spaceports would be able to handle this. Big ports like Ceres, for example, would have an entire section of the dock dedicated for these little prospecting ships to come in and drop off their hulls of stone. A lot of them likely have prospective buyers waiting at the docks most times to buy up the resources being brought in. And if you want to learn about how valuable these can be, let's look at a simple S-type asteroid. A single S-type asteroid, about 10 meters in diameter, can have about 650,000 kilograms of various types of metals, including 50 kilograms of high-value metals like gold and platinum. And that's just a single asteroid. Now, if you're doing this fairly regularly, bringing in new asteroids every couple of days, you're making a pretty big profit. All in all, rock hopping, this prospective form of asteroid mining, is a very easy to enter position for anyone in a sort of lower financial standing within the belt, which is why we see it being used by a lot of low-income quantum belters, and why we see a lot of these prospecting ships ending up serving factions like the OPA and later the Free Navy during their wars with the inner planets. If you'd like to learn about the OPA and the Free Navy, I'll leave a link up here to my video all about how the OPA is organized and sort of their goals in their fight against the inner planets. And I'd like you to let me know down in the comments what you think about this method of asteroid mining. Do you think it makes sense to go out and bag individual asteroids in these nets, or do you think it really makes more sense to try to pool together and get a larger vessel like the Canterbury to sort of strip the asteroids within a cargo hold? And if you have anything else you'd like to see me cover in the Expanse, leave it down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.